If nature comes up with a creature that has more than one head, and we aren't talking about ancient Greek myths, then this creature will clearly have problems. Take at least two-headed turtles. These are rare, amazing animals, and you can't call their life simple. And when I say rare, I mean it. There's one two-headed turtle in about every 1,000 hatchlings. The most striking example of a two-headed turtle is Ditto, the pond slider. Ditto's heads were constantly fighting each other over every decision the turtle made, trying to seize control of the body. They fought over where to go, what to eat, whether to dive or resurface. If you have a sibling, you can certainly imagine what it's like. They fought especially fiercely over food. Each head wanted to have it all. Naturally, this wouldn't lead to anything good, but Ditto got lucky. The turtle was discovered in time by a wildlife conservation organization. If it hadn't been, things would get really sad, because when two heads emerge from one shell, they fight over everything from food to the direction in which the animal is about to move. If one head dies and infects a living head, it quickly results in sepsis and organ failure. A surviving head can die within hours after that, since the two heads share one heart and circulatory system. So no wonder that in the wild, two-headed turtles simply have no chance to survive. Although some of them can live up to 2 months, the vast majority die much faster simply because they can't compete for resources. Well, predators, of course, are also a factor. Actually, let's be honest, it's difficult for most turtles to survive even with one head. But if we imagine for a moment that two heads are not a disadvantage but a perk, then Ditto would be a super turtle. If its heads could find a common ground, then one of them could stay on the surface of the water while the other would hunt underwater, not wasting any time on breathing. Or one head would watch out for predators while the other is sleeping. It's like having a clone that does half the work for you. Alas, so far there are no two-headed animals whose heads reconciled and turned their peculiarity into an advantage. Most likely they simply don't have enough time for that, and this is rather sad. After all, they didn't get to choose the way they would be born. Things are different when it comes to seals and eels. Just try to wrap your head around it. Who would stick an eel up their nose? Seals would. They're mischievous enough to try something like this just for fun. The thing is, such behavior is really dangerous. In the remote northwestern Hawaiian Islands, there have been at least 3 or 4 cases of seals found with eels lodged in their noses. Although no seal has died or got seriously injured by the eel, having a dead animal in one's nose can have potentially adverse health effects. At least because, while diving, a seal with an eel in its nostril won't be able to close it, and water can enter the lungs of the animal and cause pneumonia. Not to mention that the dead eel will start to decompose, and this will lead to infections that have got to be treated. This is quite problematic when the animal lives in the wild, which is why people usually pull eels out of seals' noses. But it'd be nice if animals stopped putting them in there. Though domesticated animals have their problems too. For example, it doesn't seem like hens really care about their offspring. Unlike other birds that make their own nests and carefully lay eggs, hens don't really care about that. People make a soft landing for them on the floor, but even in such conditions, the hens somehow manage to lay eggs straight from the perch, drop the eggs, and break them. Or lay eggs while standing, which increases the risk of cracks. Does it bother the hens? Nope. They actually don't care what would happen to the offspring. But that's not even the biggest issue, because hens can get addicted to the taste of their own eggs. This bad habit occurs when one hen tastes a cracked egg, and then others see it and begin to do the same. If this happens often enough, such hens have to be isolated. However, hens can peck their own eggs not only because they realized how tasty they are, but simply out of boredom, or out of curiosity to check what's inside. To fix this problem, experts recommend arranging brain-stimulating activities for hens. Stimulates hens' brains. I could never expect they might need that. While hens eat their own eggs quite often, the story of the rooster named Batiar is unique in its own way. The thing is, this rooster crows until he faints. Batiar lives in Turkey and became an internet star after his owner filmed his strange crowing. The rooster kept crowing until he got exhausted and fainted. Naturally, this unusual behavior of the rooster caused heated debate. After all, there had to be a reason why the bird is so determined to crow until he passes out. Some believe that this may be caused by the temperament of the rooster. He just doesn't know when to stop. Others suggest that Batiar may be trying to tell us something important, but he simply doesn't have the strength or time for people to understand it. Whatever the case, Batiar became so popular for his crowing, he was about to go on a world tour, and people were offering to buy the rooster for several $1,000s. It's unlikely that was Batiar's plan all along, but who knows? Actually, of all animals, birds are the ones who do the stupid things most often for some reason. While hens don't care what happens to their eggs, other birds don't bother feeding the already hatched chicks. Or rather, they don't really think what they're doing. While adult birds can enjoy a variety of bird foods, a large number of seeds and nuts represent a choking risk for fledglings. If the food's too large for the fledgling's throat, it may suffocate because the food ends up in the airways and may block them. Parents of fledglings sometimes have no idea how much food their offspring needs. They bring a lot of food and put it right in their throats. Best case scenario, the fledgling will cough and shake its head after this. In the worst case, well, you get the idea. But okay, there's a reason why bird parents act like that. They're just trying too hard. What about the bird that puts its head in the crocodile's mouth? I mean, it actually put it there. Perhaps it just didn't know that crocodiles have about 4,000 tiny raised black spots on their heads, especially along their jaws, inside their mouths, and between their teeth. These spots are very sensitive, roughly like the tips of a person's fingers. Even a light touch, for example, when a bird sticks its beak into a crocodile's mouth, is registered by the crocodile, which then immediately closes its jaws around whatever is inside. Well, maybe this bird just wanted to clean the crocodile's teeth. You've probably heard of this kind of symbiotic relationship. The Egyptian plover is sometimes called the crocodile bird because it supposedly flies into the mouths of crocodiles to feast on rotting meat stuck between its teeth. Although ancient historians such as Herodotus wrote about it, modern scholars consider it more of a myth than a reality. So far, there's no photographic evidence to prove this actually happened. There are no reports or other observations by scientists. So even if the bird wanted to enter into a symbiotic relationship with the crocodile, it just became part of the myth. But my favorite example of weird and rather silly animal behavior is when animals deal with cold food. When animals come into contact with something cold, such as snow or ice cream, they sometimes experience a phenomenon called brain freeze. It sounds a bit terrifying, but the way it works is actually quite simple. One of the blood vessels in the mouth or throat cools rapidly due to the low temperature, causing an intense headache. This pain quickly disappears after the animal no longer touches the cold object. On the internet, there are many videos of cats and other animals experiencing this phenomenon. There was once even a coyote caught on camera. Although brain freeze didn't stop him, the coyote just kept walking in the cold water. Does this count as smart behavior? I'm not quite sure. It might just be a very strong urge to drink water. But actually, looking at the behavior of animals, you often think they're a little silly. Or not so little. However, this is an illusion, as animals have developed sophisticated ways of finding food, avoiding predators, and navigating their environment. They simply wouldn't be able to survive if they didn't have a sufficiently advanced intellect. And these are not my assumptions, but facts proven by experiments. Take, for example, the experiments of French scientists. They gave oranges and pineapples to fruit flies, on which the insects lay their eggs. But scientists would dab one kind of fruit with a nasty-tasting chemical. Some flies quickly learned to avoid bad-tasting fruits and didn't land on them, even when researchers didn't put chemicals on them. Scientists allowed these insects to breed, and as a result, they created a population of smarter flies, which were more intelligent than ordinary flies. But then I wondered, if it was so easy for scientists to teach better learning skills to some insects, then why didn't the ancestors of these insects evolve the same intelligence in the wild? The answer lies in a concept that I would call costly intelligence. It's best described by an experiment with the same flies. The researchers placed smart fly larvae next to normal fly larvae and allowed them to compete for food resources. It turned out that smart fly larvae died off more often than stupid ones. Why? Well, in fact, intelligence is no different from feathers, tentacles, or petals. This is the same biological feature, which has its pros and cons. Intelligence requires energy, that is, the calories that we use to power our brains. The less energy the brain spends, the more is left for some other purpose like keeping the body warm. building additional muscle mass and preventing illness. That is, smarter animals definitely lose the perks that dumber ones have. It's also possible that genes that improve one feature, such as intelligence, affect another one or even cause diseases. In part, this can also explain behavior that doesn't make any practical sense at first glance. For example, some animals play with each other or some objects. This may not be beneficial in terms of survival or reproduction, but entertainment can help reduce stress levels and improve the overall well-being of the population. What does it tell us? Well, don't forget to rest, and if possible, keep your head out of the crocodile's mouth, even if you have two of them. See you later.